Where we last left off on the truck saga, I was finally able to get it started again. So just to recap, I replaced the number 2 spark plug. Then I drove it into the garage. I replaced the number 1 and number 6 spark plugs. Then I pulled it out of the garage for the night. And it wouldn't start the next day or for the next few days. Part of the problem was the snowstorm and the sudden cold snap. The parking brake froze and I had to use one of those construction lights to thaw it out. Of course, I didn't capture that on camera. I also hadn't figured out what was wrong with the brakes. I finally moved it into a parking spot so it wasn't right in the middle of the driveway, right in front of the garage. That was on a warm, rainy day. I also changed the number 4 spark plug that day, but the truck still wasn't running great, and the ground was wet and muddy, so I didn't want to try to move the truck back to its normal spot. It would just tear up the lawn. Uh-oh, what's that? This day, it was warm enough to start the truck up, and it was also dry, so I was able to get the truck started and move it back to its normal spot. When I took off, I was worried it would stall if I stopped, so I tried to keep moving. I opted to go into the road and around the tree rather than drive over the snowbank. Now, I noticed pretty early that the truck didn't have as much power as it usually does. When I was climbing the first hill, I was wondering if I should have taken a more direct route instead of trying to take a lap around the field. But it did climb the hill, and so I kept going. I made it almost back to the parking spot when the truck really lost power. I put the clutch in and coasted to a stop, the engine stalled, and that's when I saw the smoke. I got out as quickly as I could to see what was happening. When I got over to the passenger side, the first thing I noticed was the oil on the fender. Once I was confident that the truck wasn't burning up, I started investigating. I identified the fluid as oil and determined that there was no coolant mixed in. I also checked to see what temperature the truck was at. It was still pretty cold. Lastly, I started looking at where the oil was to try and trace it back to its origin. I noticed some bubbling in the front right corner where the head meets the block. That also seemed to be where the most oil was. I had just figured out how oil was getting into the cylinders and why the truck had suddenly lost power. Since the engine was warm, I tried to change the stuck spark plugs, and I was able to change the number 5 spark plug. You saw that on the spark plugs video. I then started the truck and moved it forward to its normal parking spot. Unfortunately, the camera ran out of memory. I then started a search for a new head gasket, and so far it is not going well, but that will be a video for another time.
Okay, whatever it is, there's a large puddle of it down there underneath the air line. There's a bunch of it all over this fender here, and it seems to be smoking or steaming right there. And there's a large puddle, and oh, those are bubbles. Those are bubbles. 165. 184, 190, 191, 144, 97, only 65 up there. That hose is 92, that's 118, that's 175, that's 150, that's 423, that's 472. At least I got some rust proofing out of the deal. Oh wow, it was really spraying. You can see the gas tank, the side of the bed, the door. It's still got speckles. Wow, it made it the entire length of the truck.